Hey everyone, hope you are doing well. Earlier this morning, I filmed an update with the Qin Shi Chao portrait. Very cool. And I thought that I wouldn't really have time to do anything else. And also, I didn't really have anything else to present. But we just got in our next portrait. So I thought, why not? I'll go ahead and unveil this one too, and you can go ahead and have a look at it. Another portrait done. Woohoo! Okay. Um, Thank you all again for making this possible. I really appreciate it. Now, I've been showing historical photos and the sources and everything, and then unveiling the portrait. This time we're going to kind of go backwards because there's so much to talk about. Our next portrait is the moon. The key words for it are hidden, dark, deception. That's upright. And then if you inverse the card, it's instability, silent error. Well, the moon, hidden, dark, deception. I thought, what better swordswoman to do than a ninja? Oh, and here we are. Boom. So cool. Okay, there's a ton to unpack here, especially because we've heard about the ninja in our popular culture and everything. First off, the specific well, no, let me talk about the accoutrement because visually you've seen it. This is one of those things where you look at a lot of what's going on and you might assume fantasy, but no. For example, take a look at the sword that she's holding. Very stylized pattern. If you had shown that to me, I might have assumed I think this is a low res copy. This isn't the high res version, but you get the picture. If you showed that blade to me, I would have assumed modern, maybe, kind of cyberpunk. But lo and behold, I found this while going kind of through a museum archive. Oh, this is a real blade. This is 500 years old. I think this is from the 1500s. I'm going to flip this around here. And you can see the pattern, kind of a plum flower branch type thing. The artist's mark underneath the handle. Look at that. Amazing craftsmanship. Amazing craftsmanship. There you go. Actual 500-year-old antique, and that's the blade we have her hold. So again, you might see that red lacquer and think, oh, it's a fantasy blade. No, that's a real period example. Same thing with the mask. Okay. I'm actually gonna pull up some photos that I wasn't necessarily planning on showing here, but I just can't help myself. It's the historian in me, right? Let's see. Okay. Check this out. This is fantasy. I included this as kind of like it's not far off. These are real historic photos that I kind of just grabbed. And I mean, we're not, you're a guard, you hear someone shouting, you run, there's commotion. You see this person kind of just shuffle past you in the winter. This person. And it turns out, maybe your lord was poisoned or whatever. And they're like, oh, did you see anyone? And you're like, and you're thinking back. And it's like, well, who was that? You didn't get a good look at that person. Kind of pixelated, but you can tell. Those are real photos. This one is fantasy, but I kind of juxtaposed to show you. So one thing you have to realize is those hoods were everywhere. In fact, it got so bad because you would wear them like in winter, maybe to shield your face, but you would also wear them to not be spotted. Like if you were a dude who went out to the floating world, the pleasure quarters of the city, and you were gonna go smoke and gamble and visit with the ladies of the night, you would wear one of those masks to try and be discreet. And it got so bad, it was so prolific that the government actually tried to ban those masks. So it's not so much that it was a ninja mask per se, it's just people wore them. Let's see. Black. There's a period text. There's the Bansen Sukai, a kind of like 500-year-old ninja manual says, on a moonless night you should wear black. There's another, like in a ninja poems thing from like 500 years ago, it says wearing black is an option. They didn't always wear black. You didn't have to wear black. And sometimes you might have even worn a regular costume. You were like the janitor or the just person shuffling around. You wanted to blend in so you could count the soldiers or whatever, or you could listen and pick up information. The spies of ancient Japan, basically. Let's see here. This isn't even the best example, but I did include this because often the artists with the black garb, they would include not only the black, so we're kind of honoring that 200-year-old woodblock Edo period tradition of like the person sneaking around the night dressed in black, but they often had like a blue belt. Let's see if I can find another one here. Here's another one. This is going to be kind of pixelated, but you can see she's got a blue belt there. This is like an old flashlight they had. That bell has a candle in it, and the candle was on an axiom. So if you turned it, it would kind of be cradled. And so if you raise the bell to look and point it like a flashlight, the candle still stayed kind of level and didn't tip over. But there's the blue obi or belt. Here's another one. You see that blue belt? So that's kind of an interesting color decision on the Japanese artist, and I decided to kind of copy that. So she has a blue obi, a blue belt. And then the smoke is not just pure fantasy either. You can see the kind of stylized smoke around her. So it's coming out of this copper tube, you can see, right? So this is brilliant. They had these copper tubes, and you would cram in like moss, or you bundle up like an old book with a bunch of crammed together pages and pages and pages, like if you literally rolled a book in a cylinder and stuck it in there. And you would light it, and it would slow burn, 8, 12, 24 hours, and it would keep you warm. So you could be trekking out in the middle of the mountains or overnight or whatever, and you'd have that little warming copper tube. And I'm telling you, swordswomen, we want to always think about, the sword, this school had this sword, this school had this sword, and they had this sword technique and this sword technique. And sometimes with wars and spying and stuff, it's more logistics. I can show up with 100 swordsmen, but then they're like, hey, how are we going to feed these people? Oh, hey, it's getting really cold and wet. Do we have tents? Where are we going to get those tents? Where are we going to get the money for those tents, right? And we've all been fascinated with, the sword stuff. And then you step back and you realize, oh shoot, like logistics, economics. When I was a little Timmy, I had this prof who, I was getting really into comparing for this one research project, the arms between the Greeks and the Persians, the Persian War Herodotus. And I was all, 8-foot spears versus 10-foot spears. And one of my profs asked me a question about the something to do with the fleets or the money or the capabilities. I was like, well, I was more focused on like the actual weapons and stuff. And he was like, Alex, you cannot understand warfare unless you understand economics. And I was like, what was your doctorate in? He's like, economics. Or maybe that wasn't his doctorate. It was one of his degrees was in economics. And sometimes, in a way, he's right. Like sometimes the answer to like, well, why didn't they just build ships and sail around and attack from this side? Money, right? So this kind of is a nice, ingenious device for keeping troops warm, keeping a lone individual warm. You're sneaking around the cold of night. This might get a little blurry. but you get the idea. And then she's got her grappling hook for climbing in. They would climb in, they would pick locks. She has her throwing shuriken. Another thing that was kind of just semi-prevalent throughout medieval Japan. Like if you went to a sword school or a samurai school, they had throwing blades too. Not necessarily like just a specific ninja thing, but there you go. Oh, and then the chainmail, like these kind of gauntlets, like they would wear chainmail underneath their clothes for the night raids and stuff. You can see that kind of gauntlet there. And then if you want more period examples of that, you can Google Kusari Kote, Kusari, and then new word Kote, and that'll give you some pictures. And they have these kind of chainmail sleeves, and because it's literally like chain sleeve, and they would wear those. Now, this woman in particular, some of the swordswomen we have detailed photos and even records of, like, you know, the matches they fought or whatever. This woman, bing, we know zero. I know zero. If someone shows up and can tell me more, then I'm all ears, but I don't know that that's ever going to happen. This is Umemura Sawano. She is mentioned one time in one book from the 1800s. And it's just it's like a throwaway line about this woman who founded her own school of ninjutsu in the Koga region, I think. And that's it. I mean, so, you know, what do we know about her? You know, I wanted to do well-documented swordswomen, of course, but I also want to do kind of these unknown stories and kind of honor these stories of, like, we know 1% about their lives. We know they existed. Because it kind of gives us room to play. You know, did Umemura Sawano ever go on night raids? I don't know. We do know for a fact that women in Japan, even though, you know, the warrior caste was like dominated by males, we do know there are women who actually fought in real battles, who lost their lives or they survived. We know there are women who learn martial arts. So that's all within the realm of plausibility. I'm not like trying to plant someone in a role they never did. But it'd be, you know, she's in charge of a camp of spies, and it'd be kind of hard. Oh, the short sword also. This short sword, that was associated with women in, well, certain types of those swords were associated with women in Japan. So it's kind of hard for me to imagine her going around unarmed. She probably had a little blade on her at the least. You know, it could have been everything from like she was training martial arts all the time to she was more administrative, but she had authority and position over other swordswomen. Sometimes the women, let me make sure I don't have any more photos I wanted to show you guys. I think that was pretty much it for now. Sometimes the women were used as, like, you know, you would send a woman into a castle as like a mistress. So it's not that they're slashing 100 people, it's that they're getting into these quarters that a man would never be allowed to, you know, visit. And then over pillow talk, over tea, you hear someone talking about troops movements, you know, complaining, oh man, I got to go all the way to Iga today. And then you know, oh, so they're moving to Iga. Or there were ways to like count troops. There are ways to do this and that. Here's one more picture. This is kind of a nice woodblock print. And it has the sleeves I was talking about, the Kusari Kote. Whoops, sorry. The Kusari Kote. Let me try and get it zoomed in for you. And you can see those gauntlets she has, and the kind of hex motion to represent the chainmail underneath the kimono. So that's pretty cool. So yes, I think that's everything about our portrait. The moon, hidden, dark, deception, some amazing detail. Look at that. It'd make a good poster too for anyone who's ordering the posters. Yeah, that's pretty much finalized. And like I said, you know, most every little item we can point to. There are sword schools that had needle, like bow shuriken. This is a real historic blade. There were people going around wearing these masks. You would tie up the sleeves of your kimono. They had the chainmail, the kasari kote. They had these copper tubes with burning stuff in them to warm them. They had grappling hooks. Traditionally, the Edo period woodblock prints, they did have these kind of blue belts. I think it just goes well. I'm not sure that ninja were necessarily always running around with blue belts. It's almost like an artistic tradition, nice accent color. So yeah, thank you all very much for sponsoring this kind of thing. I really, really, really appreciate it. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'll keep you posted. I'll probably be sending out the updates soon. Or not the updates, excuse me. I'll probably be sending out the surveys soon. An email to where you send your address and that kind of thing. But other than that, stay tuned and thank you so much. Until next time.